Case file 6544389. Franklin Asylum. Detective assignment, Christine Davis. It was a recent finding. In the old Franklin Asylum, which recently burned down, several videotapes were discovered on the ground in a burned pile of ash. The areas had once been a security recording room that had tabs on every single room of the asylum. These tapes were collected in a tiny metal box labeled Amy Sullivan. This box couldn't be opened. The detectives had tried to open it frankly. As it opened, the dust collected inside puffed and flew out into my face. There was a total of 20 tapes. All of them had small timestamps, which is slightly odd. I have a VCR that I brought in. I put in the tape and pressed the play button. I placed the number 1 tape into the player. This tape was a simple recording of every screen. The asylum patients were, like normal in a place such as this, freaking out and jumping around. The patients in the psychotic ward were the worst of this type. Some sat in corners of the rooms, banging their heads, some spoke in tongues, and some were screaming. This was not the same in the child psychiatric ward, where children slept in their beds chained down. Most of the children there had killed a relative and pled insanity. As awful as it is, everything was perfectly normal. By the timestamp of 11:58, the camera angle changes to a view of the warden's room. This small office was filled with the warden himself and his secretary. "Amy, dear," the warden says, standing up from his cluttered desk. "Yes?" she asks, looking at him. She was pale, with long brown hair, and wore a nurse's outfit. "I just received a distress message from the cafeteria. Go down there and check it out, will you?" he asks. He sits down, shrugging and sighing. "What's the emergency?" Amy asks before leaving. It doesn't say. Take the euthanasia equipment, dear," he says. Amy nods and leaves. The camera then shifts to a view of the cafeteria. This screen was black and white, but you could tell something was wrong. A patient was flopping on a table, shouting in strange tongues and stammers. Amy is seen walking in with needles and a straitjacket. The patient screams, diving off the table. He runs around frantically, but strangely. He dives onto the ground, walking on all fours. He jumps surprisingly high and grabs onto a ledge above. It shimmies across an edge, vanishing from view. In a few minutes, he appears in front of the camera, smiling. The tape ends. That's obviously not the source of the fire, so I ignored that happening and inserted the second tape. In this tape, it's nightfall. The rooms of the asylum are dark and quiet, and oddly enough, the patients are asleep. The one man who appeared in front of the camera simply vanished. He was nowhere to be found. It's obvious the time has changed, but where was he? Dead? I couldn't be sure. The camera view switches from an all view to the warden's room. Nothing is in there at all. It switches again to the cafeteria. Nothing. It switches to the view of the boiler room. Despite the ominous red glow, nothing happens. It's all eerily quiet, and the tape ends. I insert the third tape. I sit back, stretching my legs when the tape turns on. Nothing. Each room is eerily silent just like before. The difference is that the time has changed to day. In the all-screen view of the tape, it's visible that several patients are gone, nowhere to be found. The ones that do remain all sit there staring at the camera. They have an ominous grin about them, which creeps me out severely. The tape ends. I insert the fourth tape. Even more patients are gone. Only, let's say, 50 remain in their cells. The child's ward is completely empty. The psychiatric ward is half empty. The nurses' stations are empty except for one, Amy. The warden's office is empty. The penitentiary ward is prisoners only. The tape ends. On the fifth tape, the view has completely changed. Everyone is gone. The halls are dark, abandoned. In the all-screen view, one camera moves around the halls. "It's been 3 days," Amy's voice says from the view. She turns the camera around to her face, and the camera changes to her only. She is obviously frightened. Everyone's gone. Just gone. I can't keep doing this. The warden comes in for 10 minutes to take roll and vanishes. Today, I came in to turn in my resignation, but when I did, the lights went out. Warden's gone, and the doors are all locked down. The windows have bars in them. I'm afraid I won't make it out of here, so just in case, I'm making this video diary to show what an awful place this is. Amy? A girl's voice calls out. She shrieks and turns around to show a tiny girl holding a teddy bear. She did look oddly beautiful. Are you a patient? Amy asks. Amy? She asks again. Her face suddenly grows dark and she disappears. The bear drops down to the floor. Amy shrieks and backs up. Attention! Attention! A soft female's voice calls, echoing in the asylum. It must have been the voice automated announcer, I believe. We must inform all patients that lockdown is immediate at 9 o'clock tonight. It keeps talking, even though they're all gone, Amy says. The announcer won't leave me alone, and that girl. I keep seeing her everywhere, but I can't help but be kind. It's only in my nature. Amy sighs and walks through to the cafeteria area. It's pitch black. Several food trays lie out covered in strange goop, which I assume was simply the prison's daily meal. Amy sits down and lies the camera on the table next to her. She closes her eyes and lies down on the table herself. The tape ends. I sigh, thinking about how could she sleep on that table? How could she be locked in? Was this an elaborate plot to get me to believe this was a haunting? So I insert the 6th tape. This tape is nothing but Amy sleeping. In the video, shadows and orbs are seen passing over her. The tape ends after 20 minutes. I fast-forwarded through, ejected, and inserted tape 7. Again, she was just sleeping. For the next 3 tapes, she's just sleeping. On the 10th tape, Amy awakens and grabs the camera. God, every time I try to sleep, they keep me in this nightmare world, she cries. She takes the camera out of the room and turns around. Every tray of muck has suddenly been levitated into the air. The girl from before suddenly appears with her bear in the middle, smiling. Amy? Each tray flies into the center of the room, smashing into her. She screams and vanishes. Amy screams and runs off. She trips, dropping the camera. It slides across a small hallway, pointing to Amy and a set of stairs. She tries to stand up, but she can't. We apologize for this interruption, says the announcer, but there is something behind you. Amy turns around and screams. The tape ends. On the 11th tape, the camera view opens up to a pitch-black room. Nothing can be seen. At the 5th minute, a candle lights up and reveals dark red eyes. They blink 3 times and vanish. The candle remains in view, seemingly on a table. I can't make heads or tails of the surroundings. Then, the candle goes out. At the timestamp of 20 minutes, Amy picks up the camera. She lights a second candle and holds it out to reveal a nursing station. A body cart sits in front of her. It is pushed quickly out of view and she shrieks. She walks out and enters the psychiatric ward's main hallway. Amy Sullivan, please report to the warden's office, the announcer calls. The tape ends. The 12th tape contains scratchy footage and inaudible voices. The 13th tape contains a silent clip of Amy walking down the hallway. Tables in the cafeteria shift into view, and Amy is seen running, at least in my opinion. On the 14th tape, Amy walks into the warden's office. Amy, dear, the warden cheers. The lights in his office turn on to reveal the warden, sitting in his chair. Warden? Amy asks, backing up. I saw you were messing with my security tapes. Why is this? He asks. You're not the warden. You can't be, and crazy stuff is going on here. Amy backs up. Really? He walks up and opens the door, and outside, several doctors and guards walk around normally. But Amy backs away. She is heard, slightly sobbing. You're probably going crazy from this job, my dear. He laughs and keeps laughing. The lights flicker and burst, shooting sparks on the ground. Whispers come into frame, overshadowing Amy's voice. The tape ends. When I played the 15th tape, it flickered for a brief moment. Amy is seen walking down a set of stairs under the office. It flickers out. On the 16th tape, there's nothing, it's blank. On the 17th tape, Amy walks down into a basement sort of area. Pigs roam around frantically, flashing in and out of view. She screams. Pigs! She shouts. The camera looks up, and in the view is a man in a dark suit. On a stick is a pig's head, and he marches towards her.
This little piggy went to the market,
He says, marching. He vanishes quickly, and the tape ends. Sighing, I wrote down notes of the occurrences. I insert the 18th tape. Hopefully, it'll all be over soon. Amy walks along a railing, pointing the camera around a dark and lifeless room. It suddenly brightens, and conveyor belts to the side begin sliding pigs along the sides and into grinders. Their screams echo into the camera. She shrieks, backing up into a wall. It suddenly breaks down under her, and she topples in. Amy, dear, a familiar voice asks. The tape ends. The 19th tape plays soon after with the warden in view. Are you enjoying my machine? Do you hear the sound of the pigs? He laughs. What? Amy asks, standing up. Thank you, Amy. I finally have my machine up and running. This asylum has given me my inspiration to be what I must be. This machine fuels my passion for death, dear. He laughs. Amy backs out of the broken wall. This is crazy! This is me. This asylum is the epitome of my creation. This machine for pigs is truly my biggest creation. He laughs more. You've gone crazy working here. You're the insane one. She tries to run out of the conveyor belt room. Insane? I'm doing these idiots a favor. I'm killing them all. The scum. They've all perished, and now you shall too. This asylum is mine, and I finally have the Big Bang figured out. I'm going to chop you up in my grinder. Why would you do this? I thought we were friends, or at least work friends. We are nothing, you little brat. Into the machine. He sprints towards Amy, pushing her back, knocking the camera out of her hands. It lands on the ground as Amy smashes into the railing and falls onto the conveyor belt. She screams, running on the belt backwards. She's not getting anywhere, frankly. She falls over, being pushed into the grinding machine in front of her. In minutes, the warden picks up the camera and laughs. The tape ends. I sit back in my chair, nervous as to what would be on the final tape. I put it in. I insert it into the VCR. Amy is being followed by the warden's camera. She's being hacked and sliced into pieces by the grinding machine. At the end, the warden laughs maniacally and drops the camera. As he lifts it, he finds Amy's body has been stuffed in a corner instead of being disposed. He sighs when suddenly the lights spark and explode. The lights crash onto the conveyor belt. They burst, setting fire to the machine for pigs. This is all your fault, warden. A voice whispers into the camera. He races up the stairs to his office but is quickly trapped. The machine, now ablaze, has burned down the stairs below. A combination of electricity and gas running the facility bursts, blowing off the belts and destroying the asylum's support. In moments, the warden tips over and crashes to the ground. He is caught on fire and crawls out into the hallway. The camera turns to reveal the girl and her bear, pulling the warden out into the hall. The tape ends. I gather the tapes up into the case. I wonder, how did the last tape get into the briefcase? Anyway, I take the tapes out of my office into my boss's office. I know this might sound weird, I say, but the entire footage needed to end this case is on these tapes. Really? He asks. He takes the tapes from me. Go get your VCR. I bring the VCR into my boss's room. Pressing play, he looks at the first tape, which was the close-up of the cafeteria and warden's office. The patient jumps into view like in the beginning. He smiles this time, however. Did you enjoy the machine for pigs? That's not right. Let me get my notes. I'll show you what... I'm cut off. The door for my boss's office is locked. The patient stares into my boss's eyes. He won't respond to me.
This is your fault.
The tape ends. Hi, 207. It's Miss Viola Swamp. Thanks for listening, commenting, and subscribing. Go check out my Facebook page and leave suggestions for stories you want to hear. I hope to see you in class next time.